Ambassador Miho walked slowly down the long metal corridor of the Centauran Council building. His blue skin flickered with strange light patterns that his people had never seen before. The other Centaurans who passed him in the hallway stopped and stared. Something was different about Miho. Something was wrong. 3 months ago, when Miho left for his diplomatic mission to Earth, his light patterns were steady and calm. Centaurans always showed the same patterns. They meant order, logic, and control. But now Miho's skin danced with colors that seemed to have no purpose. The lights moved like water, like wind, like things Centaurans never thought about. In the Great Council Chamber, High Counselor Yuna waited with 12 other council members. They sat in a perfect circle, their skin glowing with the proper steady blue light. When Miho entered, their lights dimmed slightly. They could sense that something had changed in him. Ambassador Miho, High Counselor Yuna spoke in the formal tone all Centaurans used. Please report on your diplomatic mission to the planet Earth. Miho stood in the center of the circle. For a long moment he said nothing. This was already strange. Centaurans always answered questions immediately. Hesitation was not part of their nature. The humans? Miho began then stopped. His light patterns swirled faster. They are not what we expected. Explain, ordered Counselor Yuna. I met a human named David. He was old, maybe 60 Earth years. His body was failing and he knew he would die soon. But every day he went to a big stone and carved it with simple tools. He was making a statue of his dead wife. The council members looked at each other. Their steady lights flickered with confusion. This David human knew he would die before finishing his work, Miho continued. The statue would take years to complete. But he smiled while he worked. He sang songs. He was happy. This makes no logical sense, said Counselor Jean, the head of logic and reasoning. Why would a being work on something it cannot complete? Miho's lights swirled into new patterns. If the council members could see human emotions, they would recognize it as sadness mixed with wonder. I asked David the same question. He said something strange. He said that the joy was not in finishing the statue. The joy was in loving his wife so much that he wanted to create beauty for her, even after she was gone. The council chamber fell silent. Centaurans did not understand concepts like love or beauty or creating without purpose. David showed me other humans too, Miho said. There was a woman named Sarah who spent her days teaching children, even though the children would forget most of what she taught them. There was a man named Tom who played music on street corners, even though most people walked past without listening. They all seemed to find meaning in things that had no logical purpose. Counselor Yuna's light patterns showed growing concern. Ambassador Miho, these behaviors indicate serious mental dysfunction in the human species. We should classify Earth as a dangerous world and avoid future contact. But Miho shook his head, another human gesture that Centaurans never used. No. They are not dysfunctional. They are alive in ways we have forgotten how to be. At that moment, another figure entered the council chamber. It was Ambassador Jiho, who had returned from his own Earth mission 2 months earlier. Since his return, Jiho had been acting strangely too. He spent time alone in his quarters, something Centaurans never did. He asked questions about why their society worked the way it did, something Centaurans never questioned. I must speak, Jiho said, walking to the center of the circle next to Miho. What Miho says is true. The humans changed me too. Counselor Yuna's lights flashed with alarm. Explain this change. On Earth I witnessed a terrible thing, Jiho said. A great fire burned through one of their cities. Many humans lost their homes, their possessions, everything they owned. I expected them to despair, to give up, to accept defeat like logical beings would. And did they? Asked Counselor Jean. No. They sang songs while the fire burned. They helped strangers carry belongings to safety. They shared food with people they had never met. And when the fire was gone, they began rebuilding immediately, even though they knew another fire might come someday. Jiho's light patterns shifted to mirror Miho's strange, flowing colors. They find strength in their weakness. They find hope in hopeless situations. They create meaning where no meaning should exist. The council members' lights began to flicker with uncertainty. This was dangerous territory. Centauran society was built on logic, order, and predictable outcomes. What these ambassadors described threatened everything they believed. There is more, Miho said quietly. Other ambassadors have returned changed too. Ambassador Soyoung from the Vega mission. Ambassador Juno from the Mars colony visit. We have all seen the same thing. What thing? Counselor Yuna demanded. Humans who choose to keep living, keep hoping, keep creating even when logic says they should stop. And somehow, being near them makes us question why we stopped asking questions. Why we stopped feeling wonder. Why we chose safety over growth. The council chamber erupted in confused chatter. Lights flickered wildly as council members tried to process information that challenged their fundamental understanding of existence. High Counselor Yuna raised her hand for silence. This is clearly some form of mental contamination. All returned Earth ambassadors will undergo immediate psychological reconditioning. But as she spoke, Miho smiled, another human expression he had learned. Counselor, why do we never question our orders? The question hung in the air like poison. Because it was the first time in Centauran history that anyone had asked it. 3 months passed after the council meeting. The Galactic Senate had made its decision. All diplomats who returned from Earth would go through Protocol 7. This was the strongest mind treatment the galaxy had ever created. It was designed to erase dangerous thoughts and return the diplomats to their normal state. The treatment center was built on a small moon orbiting the planet Kepler 438b. It was far from any populated worlds in case something went wrong. The building was white and clean with no windows. Inside, there were dozens of treatment rooms filled with machines that could reach into any being's mind and change it. Ambassador Taiho was the first to undergo the treatment. He was from the Dominion race, beings who looked like tall humans but with gray skin and large black eyes. The Dominion had not changed their society or their thoughts for over 2,000 years. They believed in perfect order and complete obedience to authority. Before his Earth mission, Taiho had been the perfect Dominion citizen. He followed every rule. He never questioned any order. He lived his life exactly as his leaders planned for him. But after spending 4 months with humans, everything had changed. Taiho had met a human woman named Lisa who ran a small cafe in New York City. Lisa worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Her cafe barely made enough money to survive. Logically, she should have closed it and found easier work. But Lisa told Taiho something that confused him completely. She said, "I don't run this cafe to get rich. I run it because I love seeing people smile when they taste my grandmother's cookie recipe. Some things are more important than profit." This idea had infected Taiho's mind like a virus. For the first time in his life, he began to wonder, what if there were things more important than following orders? The treatment machines worked on Taiho for 12 hours. They sent electric pulses through his brain. They used chemicals to alter his memory. They played sounds designed to make him forget everything he learned about human concepts like individual choice, personal happiness, and questioning authority. When Taiho emerged from the treatment room, the medical staff expected to see the old obedient ambassador. Instead, Taiho looked directly at the head doctor and asked, "Why did you decide to become a doctor?" The question shocked everyone in the room. Dominion citizens never asked personal questions. They never showed curiosity about individual choices. The treatment had completely failed. I was assigned to this position by the state," the doctor stammered. "But did you want to be a doctor?" Taiho pressed. "Did you ever dream of doing something else?" The doctor's large black eyes widened with confusion. The concept of wanting something different from what authority assigned was foreign to him. But now Taiho had planted the question in his mind. 2 weeks later, Taiho was released from the treatment center. The medical staff declared him partially recovered and sent him back to his home world. But they had no idea what they were really releasing. Within days of his return, Taiho began meeting secretly with other Dominion citizens. He shared stories about humans who chose their own jobs, their own partners, their own beliefs. He talked about humans who created art not because they were ordered to, but because they felt compelled to express themselves. Soon, other treated ambassadors joined Taiho's secret meetings. Ambassador Nari had returned from studying human government systems. Before Earth, she had never questioned why the Dominion was ruled by a small group of elders who made all decisions for everyone else. But on Earth, she had learned about something called democracy. Humans actually chose their own leaders. Even more shocking, humans could remove leaders who did a bad job. This idea had survived her treatment too. What if we could choose our own paths? Nari asked the growing group of infected diplomats. What if we could decide for ourselves what makes life meaningful? The group met in abandoned buildings, in forests, anywhere the authorities could not find them. They called themselves the Awakened, though they never would have used such a dramatic name before their Earth missions. Word of their meetings began to spread. Young Dominion citizens started asking dangerous questions. Why can't I choose my own career? Why must I marry the person the state selects? Why do we never create anything beautiful just because it makes us happy? The infection was spreading beyond the returned ambassadors. On the planet Rigel 7, Ambassador Hyunwoo had undergone the same treatment. His people, the Rigelians, were a race of beings who looked like large insects but with advanced intelligence. They had eliminated all forms of personal expression thousands of years ago. Every Rigelian lived in identical homes, wore identical clothes and thought identical thoughts. But Hyunwoo had met human artists on Earth. He watched them paint pictures that had no practical purpose. He heard them write songs that served no logical function. He saw them dance simply because moving to music brought them joy. After his failed treatment, Hyunwoo returned home and did something no Rigelian had done in millennia. He began to paint. Using mud and plant dyes, he created images of the Earth sky, the human faces he remembered, the emotions he had learned to recognize. Other Rigelians gathered to watch him work. They had never seen anything like it. Some were frightened. But others felt something stirring inside them, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. "Why does this image make me feel different?" asked a young Rigelian named Chae-young. Hyunwoo smiled, another expression he learned from humans. "Because you are remembering what it feels like to be alive." Soon, Rigelians across the planet were experimenting with art, with music, with personal expression. The government tried to stop them, but it was too late. The human concepts had taken root. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. The Galactic Senate watched in horror as their perfectly ordered societies began to crumble. The treatment had failed completely. The human infection was spreading faster than they ever imagined possible. Emergency meetings were called. Some senators demanded stronger treatments. Others suggested completely destroying all records of Earth and forbidding any future contact. But it was already too late. The questions had been asked. The possibilities had been seen. And once a being learned that life could be more than just following orders and avoiding risk, that knowledge could never be completely erased. The galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Dongwoo stared at the holographic display floating in front of him. The research station orbited a distant star, far from any populated worlds. The Galactic Senate had given him and his team one mission: figure out what was happening to the diplomats who visited Earth. His assistant, Dr. Jaiwan, sat at another workstation nearby. She was reviewing files from 43 different diplomatic missions to Earth. Every single diplomat had returned changed. Every single treatment had failed to fix them. "Show me the footage from Ambassador Sung-yoon's mission again," Dr. Dongwoo said. The hologram changed to show a tall, thin being with silver skin meeting with humans in what appeared to be a hospital. Ambassador Sung-yoon belonged to the Altarian race. Altarians were known throughout the galaxy for their logical thinking and emotional control. They had not cried, laughed, or shown any strong feelings for over 3,000 years. In the footage, Sung-yoon was visiting sick human children. Dr. Dongwoo watched as the ambassador met a small human girl named Emma. She was 8 years old and dying from a genetic disease. The doctors said she had maybe 6 months to live. "Watch his posture here," Dr. Dongwoo told Jaiwan. "See how straight and rigid he stands? This is normal Altarian behavior." In the recording, Emma was showing Sung-yoon a drawing she had made. It showed a house with a garden and a family standing outside. Emma explained that this was her dream home, the place she wanted to live when she grew up. "But the medical files say she will not grow up," Jaiwan observed. "She knows this. Why does she maintain hope for an impossible future?" Dr. Dongwoo pointed at the screen. "Keep watching Sung-yoon." As Emma talked about her dreams, something remarkable happened. Sung-yoon's rigid posture began to soften. His silver skin, which normally stayed one consistent color, began to show slight variations in tone. When Emma finished her story, Sung-yoon did something no Altarian had done in centuries. He knelt down to her level. "I hope you get your house with the garden," Sung-yoon said in the recording. His voice carried something that sounded almost like warmth. Emma smiled and hugged him. For a moment, Sung-yoon's skin flickered with colors that resembled human emotions. "There," Dr. Dongwoo said, pausing the recording. "That is the moment of infection." "But how is this possible?" Jaiwan asked. "The child is clearly delusional. She maintains hope despite having no logical reason for hope. This should not affect a rational being like Sung-yoon." Dr. Dongwoo switched to another recording. This one showed Ambassador Borum meeting with human soldiers who had survived a terrible war. The soldiers had lost friends, family members, and parts of their own bodies. By all logical measures, they should have been broken and defeated. Instead, the humans were helping rebuild their destroyed city. They worked together, shared resources, and even sang songs while they worked. They spoke about the friends they had lost not with despair, but with something they called honor and love. "Every species in the galaxy learned to eliminate suffering," Dr. Dongwoo explained to Jaiwan. When we developed advanced technology, we removed pain, uncertainty, and individual struggle from our societies. We created perfect worlds where nothing bad ever happens. Jaiwan nodded. This was basic galactic history. Every civilization that reached the stars had followed the same path. Remove chaos, eliminate unpredictability, create order and safety for all citizens. But humans chose a different path, Dr. Dongwu continued. They kept the suffering. They kept the uncertainty. They kept the struggle. And somehow they learned to transform these negative things into strength. Dr. Dongwu showed Jaiwan brain scans from the returned diplomats. The scans revealed something shocking. Areas of their brains that had been dormant for thousands of years were suddenly active. These were the parts that dealt with creativity, individual choice, and emotional growth. Humans awakened parts of their minds that our species deliberately shut down, Dr. Dongwu said. When our diplomats spent time with humans, they saw beings who faced death, loss, and failure but still chose to hope, to create, to love. This exposure reactivated dormant neural pathways. Jaiwan studied the brain scans with growing alarm. Are you saying that our perfect societies made us incomplete? Look at this data, Dr. Dongwu said, pulling up genetic analysis charts. Every advanced species in the galaxy shows signs of evolutionary stagnation. We stopped growing, learning, adapting thousands of years ago. We reached a state we called perfection and stayed there. The charts showed that human genetic patterns were still changing, still evolving. Unlike every other intelligent species, humans continued to develop new capabilities and traits. But how do they survive with so much chaos in their lives? Jaiwan asked. Dr. Dongwu showed her footage of humans creating art, writing music, telling stories. They don't just survive the chaos. They use it. Pain becomes art. Loss becomes love. Failure becomes wisdom. They turn suffering into a tool for growth. And when our diplomats see this, they remember what growth feels like, Dr. Dongwu finished. They remember that existence can be more than just safety and order. They see beings who choose to live fully even knowing they will die. They see meaning created from meaninglessness. Jaiwan was quiet for a long time, studying the data. Finally, she asked, "What do we tell the Senate?" Dr. Dongwu looked at the evidence spread across his workstation. Brain scans showing reactivated neural pathways. Genetic data proving evolutionary stagnation. Video footage of humans transforming suffering into strength. The answer was clear but terrifying. We tell them the truth, he said. Contact with humans doesn't just change individual diplomats. It awakens evolutionary potential that our species have been suppressing for millennia. The humans aren't infecting our people with madness. They're showing them what we could become if we had the courage to risk imperfection. The implications were staggering. If Dr. Dongwu was right, then every advanced civilization in the galaxy had traded growth for safety. They had chosen stagnation over evolution. And humans, the species everyone thought was primitive, were the only ones still moving forward. The emergency session of the Galactic Senate took place in the neutral zone near the Vega star system. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the massive spherical chamber. The air was thick with tension and fear. For the first time in galactic history, the foundations of their civilizations were being questioned. Dr. Dongwu stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing his research data. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared to deliver findings that would change everything. Senator Minji of the Procyon Assembly spoke first. Her people looked like tall, graceful beings with blue-tinted skin and large eyes. The Procyons had achieved what they considered perfect society 15,000 years ago. No crime, no conflict, no suffering of any kind. Dr. Dongwu, Senator Minji said in a calm voice, your report claims that our civilizations are somehow flawed. This seems impossible. We have eliminated war, disease, poverty, and death. How can this be considered anything but success? Dr. Dongwu activated the first holographic display. It showed evolutionary charts for every major galactic species. The lines showed rapid development for millions of years, then sudden flat lines when each species achieved interstellar travel. Senator Minji, you are correct that your people eliminated suffering, Dr. Dongwu replied. But look at these genetic analysis charts. The Procyon species has not evolved or adapted in any significant way for 15,000 years. Your DNA, your brain structure, your psychological patterns, they are identical to your ancestors from when you first reached the stars. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the chamber. Senator Changmin of the Rigel Coalition stood up. His insect-like appearance clicked and buzzed as he spoke. Evolution is unnecessary once perfection is achieved. We solved all problems. Why would we need to continue changing? Because, Dr. Dongwu said, activating another display, humans show us that we were wrong about what perfection means. The new hologram showed human genetic data. Unlike every other species in the chamber, the human evolutionary chart continued to climb steadily upward. Even in the past 1,000 years, humans had developed new neural pathways, increased emotional complexity, and expanded creative capabilities. This is impossible, declared Senator Hyunki of the Vega Dominion. No species can continue evolving indefinitely. Evolution stops when survival is assured. Dr. Dongwu smiled sadly. That is exactly what we all believed. And that belief may have been our greatest mistake. He activated a video recording of human behavior during a natural disaster. The footage showed a massive earthquake destroying a human city. Instead of the logical response, evacuating and rebuilding elsewhere, the humans stayed. They rescued strangers from collapsed buildings. They shared food with people they had never met. They sang songs to keep spirits high while working in dangerous conditions. Watch their faces, Dr. Dongwu instructed the senators. These humans are facing death, loss, and suffering. According to our understanding, they should be paralyzed by fear or despair. Instead, they seem to become stronger. The footage continued, showing humans working together with remarkable efficiency and creativity. They found new ways to solve problems. They created makeshift hospitals, temporary shelters, and communication systems using damaged materials. Humans do not eliminate challenges, Dr. Dongwu explained. They embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. While we removed all obstacles from our paths, humans learned to use obstacles as stepping stones. Senator Eun-young of the Centauran Council raised her hand. Her crystalline form flickered with confused light patterns. Are you suggesting that suffering is beneficial? This contradicts everything we know about quality of life. Not suffering for its own sake, Dr. Dongwu replied, but the opportunity to overcome suffering. Humans call it growing through adversity. When they face problems, they do not just solve them, they become better versions of themselves in the process. Another hologram appeared, showing psychological profiles of the infected diplomats. Before their Earth missions, each diplomat showed consistent, stable mental patterns typical of their species. After Earth exposure, their brain scans revealed explosive growth in areas related to creativity, empathy, and problem-solving. Ambassador Miho learned to find beauty in impermanence, Dr. Dongwu continued. Ambassador Jiho discovered meaning in struggle. Ambassador Nari found strength in questioning authority. The humans did not teach them these concepts directly. Instead, the humans demonstrated that these ways of thinking were possible. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Senator Yunho of the Altair Federation spoke slowly. Are you saying that our perfect societies have made us incomplete? I am saying that we stopped growing, Dr. Dongwu replied. We created safe, predictable worlds where nothing challenges us. As a result, we lost the ability to adapt, to innovate, to find new forms of meaning and purpose. He showed one final piece of evidence, a comparison chart of technological and artistic development. Every galactic civilization showed initial rapid advancement, followed by thousands of years of stagnation. Humans, despite being much younger as a species, were advancing faster than anyone. While we perfected what we already knew, Dr. Dongwu said, humans continued discovering what they did not know. While we eliminated uncertainty, humans learned to dance with uncertainty. While we chose safety, humans chose growth. The revelation sparked heated debate throughout the chamber. Some senators refused to accept the findings. How could primitive humans be more advanced than civilizations that had traveled the stars for millennia? But others, particularly those who had already been exposed to infected diplomats, began to understand. Senator Soyan of the Andromedan Collective stood up slowly. I have noticed changes in my own people recently. Young Andromedans are asking questions we have not heard in centuries. They want to know why we live the way we do. They want to try new things, create new art, explore new ideas. The infection is spreading, Senator Minji said with alarm. No, corrected Dr. Dongwu. Evolution is resuming. The question is not whether we can stop it. The question is whether we want to. For the first time in galactic history, an entire civilization was forced to confront a terrifying possibility, that their greatest achievement might have been their greatest failure. 2 years had passed since Dr. Dongwu presented his findings to the Galactic Senate. The galaxy had never been the same. What started as a simple question about returning diplomats had become the greatest crisis in galactic history. The vote had been closer than anyone expected. 24 species chose isolation from Earth. 23 chose continued contact. The galaxy split in half. Ambassador Miho stood in his office on Earth, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. The waves crashed against the shore in endless patterns, never exactly the same but always beautiful. This was something he had learned to appreciate during his time with humans, finding beauty in things that served no logical purpose. His replacement would arrive tomorrow. A young Centauran named Hiren, volunteering for what her people now called dangerous duty. But Miho knew the truth. Hiren was not coming as a diplomat. She was coming as a student like so many others from the Contact Coalition. The door chimed and his human assistant, Maria, entered with the daily reports. Maria was the grandmother whose garden had taught Miho that beauty could grow even in poisoned soil. She had become his guide to understanding human concepts that still seemed impossible to his logical mind. "The morning briefings are here," Maria said, setting down a tablet. "And there's something else you should see." She activated the wall display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. The reports painted two very different pictures. From the isolation worlds came disturbing news. The Procyon Assembly was experiencing what their leaders called social degradation. Young Procyons were refusing their assigned roles. They wanted to choose their own careers, their own partners, their own beliefs. Some had even started creating art, something banned for 15,000 years. The Rigel Coalition was facing similar problems. Citizens who had lived identical lives for millennia were suddenly demanding individual expression. They were painting murals on the walls of their identical buildings. They were writing songs about feelings their species had forgotten how to feel. "The isolation is not working," Maria observed. "Even without direct contact, the ideas are spreading." Miho nodded. This did not surprise him. He had seen how human concepts worked. Once a being learned that life could be more than safety and order, that knowledge could not be contained. It spread through conversations, through art, through simple questions that challenged everything. The news from the Contact Coalition was very different. These species were openly sending representatives to Earth. They came not as diplomats but as students, researchers, and volunteers. They wanted to learn what humans called the art of living. Young beings from dozens of worlds now walked the streets of human cities. They worked in human hospitals, schools, and businesses. They experienced human concepts like failure and recovery, loss and healing, struggle and triumph. "Show me the report from New Soul," Miho requested. The display changed to show a remarkable scene. A group of young Altarians were working with human teachers in a school for disabled children. The Altarians, who had eliminated all forms of disability from their society thousands of years ago, were learning something profound. They watched human children who could not walk create beautiful paintings with their hands. They saw children who could not speak communicate through music. They witnessed children with damaged minds solve problems in ways that surprised their teachers. Before coming to Earth, one young Altarian named Sunho said in an interview, "I believe that perfection meant having no flaws. But these human children are teaching me that perfection might mean finding strength within our flaws." Maria smiled as she watched the report. That boy understands something his species forgot long ago. The door chimed again. Dr. Jaiwan entered, looking troubled. She had been working with Miho to coordinate the student exchange programs. "We have a problem," she announced. "The Isolation Coalition is demanding that we stop all cultural exchanges. They claim we are deliberately spreading the human infection to destabilize their societies." "Are we?" Miho asked. Dr. Jaiwan hesitated. "Not deliberately. But the students who return from Earth do share what they have learned. And yes, it is causing changes in their home societies." Miho looked back at the ocean. A small human child was building a sandcastle on the beach below. The tide would wash it away in a few hours, but the child worked with complete focus and joy. This was pure human behavior, creating something beautiful despite knowing it would not last. "Dr. Jaiwan," Miho said slowly, "may I ask you a question that humans taught me to ask?" "Yes." "Do you believe our societies were better before, when we never questioned anything? When we never grew or changed? When we were safe but asleep?" Dr. Jaiwan was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, "No. I do not think we were better. I think we were just less alive." Maria's communication device beeped with an urgent message. She read it quickly then looked up with wide eyes. "What is it?" Miho asked. "It's from the Vega system. The isolation barrier has failed. Young vegans have been secretly communicating with Earth through quantum transmissions. They have been learning human languages, human philosophy, human art. Their government tried to stop them, but once the questions begin they cannot be stopped," Miho finished. That evening, Miho composed his final report to the Galactic Senate. He wrote about the impossibility of containing human influence. He explained that the choice had never really been about protecting galactic civilization from humanity. The choice was about whether they wanted to remain safely frozen in their perfect societies, or risk the beautiful chaos of continued growth. As he finished writing, Miho smiled, a human expression that had become natural to him. Tomorrow, young Hiron would arrive to begin her own transformation. And across the galaxy, beings who had lived in safety for millennia were choosing the dangerous path of becoming more than they had ever imagined possible. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through force or technology. They had shown other species something far more powerful, that existence could be an adventure rather than just survival. And that gift, once given, could never be taken back.